Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining here at Unapologetic Progressive. You know, that Trump administration attack on trans girls and trans women, it's never going to stop, right? You have very few Democrats that are willing to stand up and stop it. You have no Republicans that are willing to stop it. You got idiots in my comments telling me that on social media and here on Facebook, on YouTube, that, oh, well, gender affirming care just started 5 years ago. It never existed before then. That's it's one of the dumbest things I've heard all week. But then today, Donald Trump took it upon himself to attack a teenage child because he didn't like the fact that a trans girl won a long jump competition. And why did someone? Because one person got upset that they didn't get first place. Mwah. Here's a few questions I have for you. If you're one of those MAGA Nazis that hate trans people so much that you think it's so unfair, do you actually know the science of hormone replacement? Now, I don't know about this situation because just like Donald Trump, I don't know this child. I do not know if have puberty blockers or they've been on cross-sex hormones or any of that mess, right? And we're not here to discuss whether or not they have been because they're a child. It's not my business. But y'all seem to think it is your business to know everything about what's going on in a child's pants. You MAGA Nazis are disgusting. And I think you really need some help. Because to be this fixated on the genitals of anyone, let alone a child, shows that you have a mental problem. You're the one with the mental health issue. But Donald Trump said that this child was, what's the word for it, was a mediocre athlete as a boy, but as a transitioned person, they're absolutely unbeatable. Not true. From what I've read, this particular person has only won 2 long jump competitions. 2. And they're headed to the state championships. Now, there is something to be said about requirements and rules. But you see, there is science out there that shows, through multiple studies, that 2 to 3 years on testosterone suppression and estrogen, and a trans athlete no longer has the advantages of being a biological male. They lose muscle mass. They lose dense muscle mass, which is like the most important, right? They lose bone density, which is important in sports like, oh, I don't know, it'd be like MMA or boxing, right? Those come in because Joe Rogan's talked about that in the past. He still doesn't understand the science because he refuses to understand the science. But we don't know if this child did that or not because we're not supposed to know because they're a child. Now, let's see here. Let me find it. It says, hours after the president's post, the California Interscholastic Federation announced it will expand participation in the state track and field championship to any biological female student who would have qualified had the transgender athlete not competed in the qualifying round. Now, could this be something we could do, at least in the realm of, high school sports, high school and lower sports? If it's got a championship that you're trying to get to, that if you don't, that if a transgender person was say to win first place, that the biological girl that came in fourth place also gets a chance at the championship. Would that be more fair? I personally think it's a great idea. And it's a thought I had never had before. So this is as a spokesman for Gavin Newsom said, this is a very thoughtful and is a very, you know, a very good, middle ground, basically, right? Let me find their quote. Izzy Garden Newsom's communications director called the eligibility changes a reasonable, respectful way to navigate a complex issue without compromising competitive fairness, and called it a model worth pursuing, adding that the governor is encouraged with this thoughtful approach. The Federation said that it made this decision at the conclusion of the meet where this trans girl, won, and prior to Donald Trump's involvement. But is that okay? Would that work for you, MAGA Nazis? I doubt it because you don't care. You don't actually care about fairness. You don't actually care about the science. You don't care about anything but your ability to hate people. Like, I don't hate anybody. I very strongly dislike a few people. But if there's one person on this planet that I have any hate for, it would be Donald J. Trump. Because Donald Trump could have been a great president for this country. Especially back in 2016, right? Or 2017 when he took power, right? The first time. He could have been one of the best American presidents in the history of this country. But he chose hate and divisiveness. Do you remember in 2015 when Donald Trump ran for president and said that banning trans women from sports and from public restrooms was stupid and ignorant and something that doesn't need to happen? Who told North Carolina as a candidate that they were wrong for banning transgender women from women's restrooms? That's what Donald Trump said. He also said the same thing about banning trans girls in high school from sports. But, you see, the problem is many of you out there that support Donald Trump didn't know this. You didn't pay attention to when he said that. You know why? Because it was common back in 2015 for Republicans to be like, that just sounds like you're barking up the wrong tree, that it's government overreach, right? Most conservatives didn't support that. And yeah, many of you may not have known that gender affirming care was a thing until Donald Trump mentioned it in 2018. Because all of a sudden, he was losing popularity. And since he was losing popularity, he had to find an issue. As he was leading into the midterms and as he was getting into the fight to try to retain his job as president in 2020. That wedge issue, trans rights. Because he knew that you people in the MAGA Nazi movement did not know about transgender people. He knew that, and he used it against you. Decided to scapegoat the trans community in order to get you to vote for him because he knew he could get you to hate them. And he got you to hate us for no reason. Anyhow, I don't understand why you hate us so much. I don't get it. There's a discussion to be had on limitations and requirements and things like that. But to me, for an adult to come out like Donald Trump did and attack a child, I find that reprehensible. You should not be allowed to attack children as an adult, especially children you don't know. Anyhow, thank you for watching.